Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to discuss the merits of a few rumours. So earlier today, Chapter Master Varak did a big dump of rumours on YouTube. I will put a link to his video in the description down below so you can check out the original material, so to speak. But enough of you have got in touch with me about it to just kind of get a general feel for what the reaction is that I thought we might cover a few things ourselves. Now, I will say we're not going to go into a vast amount of detail for all of it because a lot of it would just be repeating information that he's given. That would be the main thing of it, which, I mean, the information is already there. He's already got it. Like, he has a source for all of these rumours, which, of course, usual disclaimers apply. They're rumours. It's nothing confirmed. Could all be a load of absolute scrollocs. We don't know. We'll find out in due course. But I'm not just going to repeat what he said verbatim. We're going to focus on a couple of key areas because there's like an interesting contrast here of something that I am absolutely 100% sure will happen to something that I really didn't think I would ever see happen, but I'm really coming round to the idea, and that is World Eaters and Squats. Now, in his video, he does also mention stuff for Tyranids, Tau, Imperial Guard, and Space Marines. I'll say straight off the bat, basically anything about Space Marines, I kind of mostly believe when it comes to model releases. Like, maybe not when it comes to who's getting what book and all that kind of thing, but when it comes to model releases, if someone sits me down and goes, in like a year there's going to be another version of Hellblasters that have got even bigger weapons, then yeah, sure, probably. I mean, the range is already massively bloated. It's got so many units in it. It's already such a ridiculous, chunk of the 40k catalogue, but that will never stop them making more Space Marine stuff. You know, we're at the point now where you could reasonably make 2 Space Marine codexes, one for the Primaris units, one for the Firstborn units, and each codex would still be bigger than some other entire armies that have codex. So are they going to release more stuff for Space Marines? Are they going to be more dreadnoughts, more tanks, more different types of Primaris, Intercessor or Hellblaster? I mean, blanket answer to that for me is just, yeah, probably. I don't know when. It's hard to put a timescale and stuff like that, but it's like that thing, we talked about it, I think it was a couple of years ago at this point, where there was a rumour going around that there was going to be a new Primaris character. Yeah. I mean, that's always true. That's never not true, unless they suddenly decide to go absolutely insane and discontinue Space Marines. Yeah, there's always going to be a new Primaris character. Same thing applies to pretty much everything else to do with Space Marines at this point, I think it's fair to say. So that side of things, yeah, definitely, sure. Things like Kroot getting new models, I can see it, but it's more tricky to believe just because they've been neglected for so long. That being said, the example for things still being things still being done despite the army being neglected, now the yardstick for that is the Sisters of Battle, so it always makes it a little bit tricky to just blanket deny something when actually we have examples of them going back to something that really they neglected for a long time only to just give a massive new lease of life to. So it's kind of tricky. Imperial Guard getting a new tank, I can believe it. It's been a long time since we've had just a general Imperial Guard release that wasn't the repackaged Cadian box with the extra stuff in it. Whether they would go for a tank or not, I mean, quite possibly. Let's face it, armoured companies are actually pretty popular, and the idea of expanding the Imperial Guard line with another vehicle, given that actually a lot of their vehicles are just the same chassis over and over again, I can see them wanting to introduce a bit of variation, and it's kind of easier to sell someone a brand new vehicle than sell them something that they already have 80 versions of lying around. So I can kind of believe it. Termagants and Hormagaunts getting replaced, again, I can sort of believe that for the Tyranids because those are getting on a bit. I mean, those kits are pretty old. Also, they overbalance really badly and fall over on their face if you're not careful when you move them, which is just not a good design, really. And the number of people I've played who have Tyranids who are just ignore it. They're just all over the place. It's fine. It's just one of those things, isn't it? Anyway, having said we're not just going to repeat everything verbatim, we sort of have. But Squats, World Eaters. These are the two main things, right? Because the World Eater thing, I've said constantly, whenever World Eaters rumours have come up, that, yeah, we are definitely going to see a World Eaters Codex. We're going to see a massive refresh of the World Eaters as a whole. They're going to get the same treatment as the Thousand Suns / Death Guard. whether it'll be a Thousand Suns size release or whether it'll be a Death Guard size release is difficult to tell. I mean, I would imagine they would give it like full beans. They'd go well overboard with World Eaters because Khorne is one of the most popular gods. They've done a lot of work for that in terms of Age of Sigmar. But you could also use that justification to say, well, maybe they're not going to expand all that much for 40k because Khorne's had a huge amount of stuff for Age of Sigmar, and so maybe actually they would cut it back. I think probably they know that it's a winner. They know that it's something that people want, and they also know that people have been clamouring for things like new Berserkers for ever, pretty much, for as long as Berserkers have started to look a little bit derpy, which is quite a while ago now. Let's be honest, people have wanted new Berserkers, and if they're going to refresh those, the chances are they would do the whole lot. They would actually make it their own codex. My main surprise when it comes to the World Eaters thing is always that it hasn't happened earlier. Because my prevailing theory, and something that I will never let go of when it comes to talking about how Games Workshop does stuff and kind of how the hobby's changed and things have been released, I still maintain that the Khorne Demonkin Codex was effectively a practice codex for the Thousand Suns and Death Guard codexes. That they were kind of toying with the idea of putting all these things in one book, and that's what Khorne Demonkin was, and it worked. They liked it, and so they ended up deciding, okay, we're going to take each of the legions that is dedicated to a specific Chaos God. They're going to get their own codex. They're going to get their own codex full of their own units, so specialty stuff for each one. I swear that's maybe not exactly how it went, but it's always felt that way to me when it comes to looking at how they've changed the way Chaos works over the years. That codex feels like a turning point towards them deciding to do something different. And the World Eaters surely would be like right up there in terms of things they know that they could release and people would love. So it just mainly surprises me that it's not happened yet. The only thing I can think is that the reason World Eaters wasn't like the first or second is because they had that like not dedicated codex, because it wasn't a World Eaters codex, but that Demon King codex, they had that, and that's why it got pushed to further down the line. Because, I mean, it's just not... It's something that people would love. People would absolutely go for a World Eaters codex. God knows people have been clamouring for it since the Thousand Suns one dropped. So the fact it's taking as long as it is, that's the only surprise to me. I'm 100% convinced that yeah, we're going to get that codex, just like at some point we're going to get the Emperor's Children codex. That'll probably be way down the line. I'd years, maybe? I don't know. I mean, when we look at the kind of overall release schedule between, like, the gaps between the ones we've had so far and the fact World Eaters hasn't even shown up yet, it kind of feels like probably we're in for a long haul wait for an Emperor's Children codex, but I mean, they're going to do it. They're going to do it for each one. They've already done Thousand Suns for Tzeentch. They've already done Death Guard for Nurgle. They're going to keep the trend going. They're going to do the same thing for World Eaters. They're going to do the same thing for Emperor's Children. That's just what I am completely convinced of. The only thing is timescale. Like, it's just when it's going to happen. Now, Valrak reckons towards the end of the year, which... I don't know, I could see it. I mean, the thing is, we've had rumours of this sort of thing swirling around for so long. It's like one of those perpetual, I know it's going to happen, I just don't know when things. Like, no kind of prediction so far has turned out to be correct. There's been constant rumours and constant ideas and leaks of when it's going to happen, but it just hasn't yet. And yet, I'm convinced that it will, because, I mean, it matches the pattern of the other two. It's something that will be massively popular. It makes sense to have each of the four gods represented by their chosen legion in their own codex, because they are sufficiently different to a Chaos Undivided codex or warband that it makes sense to do so. Yeah, it's just when. If it is towards the end of the year, that's grand, because that's... I mean, it's always a while to wait, but, you know, at least we're getting it kind of sooner rather than later. But, I mean, I'm just convinced that will be a thing at some point. The squats thing is really weird. The squats thing, again, this feels like something that we've kind of gone back and forth on, where just every few months someone goes, squats are coming. For a long time, I just thought, no, we're not going to get a squats codex. Like, why would they bother bringing them back? It doesn't make any sense. I'm not entirely convinced that squats fully fit in now the same way that they would, when they were a thing. I mean, the idea of things being squatted, it's a phrase that exists for a reason. It's not something that has just been pulled out of thin air. It's because they were completely removed. The thing is, I can actually see it more and more. As Games Workshop goes on, and as we see more stuff that is just direct references of old stuff, the more I can see it happening. And we can go back to the yardstick of things like the Sisters of Battle. That entire line being refreshed, despite the fact that they'd neglected it for years. They basically went, okay, we've got a bunch of these old models, we're just going to make them again in plastic and see what happens. And it was massively successful. When you look at what they're doing with the Eldar range, with the refresh on the Eldar stuff, the Aspect Warriors, they are just keeping them the same. They're just making them in plastic. They're barely changing anything. And people absolutely love it because that's what they like, that's what they want. They don't necessarily want something that's like brand new. They want something that is the same but easier to work with and nicer to look at. And that's exactly what we're getting in the Eldar stuff. When you look at that Black Templar, was it the Marshal? The High Marshal? The one that looked like just a classic Space Marine, like a chunky as hell Firstborn Space Marine based on artwork for the 3rd edition Black Templars Codex. That was like universally adored as one of the best models they've made for ages. Why? Because it looks like something that came out of that edition. That's why. That's the main reason why. Things like actually bringing back that starter set. It wasn't the full one, because you didn't get the scenery, but it's still... They brought back an old like starter set as a made-to-order thing, and funnily enough, people really liked that as well. I can see it. I can genuinely actually see it now. Like, pretty easily I can see them releasing squats and them doing super, super well. It would have to be, obviously, a comprehensive like change and update, because there's not been any squats for ages, but I've kind of gone from thinking, yeah, there's no way they'd do it, to... I think they probably would. I actually think they probably would. What the timescale would be, I don't know. God knows they've got enough stuff to update before reintroducing an entire faction. But I can so see them doing it now, because everything else they've done, where they've just taken old and updated to be new, but kept the same style, kept the same aesthetic, kept almost exactly the same design. I mean, why wouldn't you give it a go? Why wouldn't you give it a go? I feel like the fact that Sisters of Battle did as well as they did, that has proved that there is a desire for that, like a real proper want for that from just the customers in general. Even things like the Necron refresh. Now, admittedly, when the Necrons had a bunch of new units, there was a lot of new stuff in there, but there's also some old stuff in there. When you look at the design of the flayed ones are back to the classic flayed ones, and they look fantastic, and everyone likes that redesign because it's not a redesign, it's what they looked like before they got messed with, and now they're back to being liked again, funnily enough. Same thing with the Locust Heavy Destroyer. That looks amazing, because it's based on like a Jez Goodwin sketch from 3rd edition that showed up in White Dwarf, and again, really, really nice, and everyone really likes it. So I can easily see it. I can easily see it now. I can easily see squats coming back. When? Who knows? Who knows? It could be a thing that shows up in the next 6 months as a nice surprise. Just hey, here's a bunch of squats, off you go. Or it could be so comprehensive and such a large rework that it takes ages. But I can honestly see it happening, which is not something I thought I'd ever really say when it comes to squats, to be honest. But that's just what I reckon. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Of course, watch the original video, get a good feel for all of the stuff, and then let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. Feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want it. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which you can use to support the channel if you'd like. And there's an affiliate link for Noble Knight Games if you are in the US. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.